get on now and proceed with the second session. You will agree with me, the first session was absolutely inspiring, and you know, I'm really, really glad for Beverley DE-GALE, who is doing incredible work, and for CELINE Loda, who has come all the way from Nigeria to be with us today. So I'm just going to welcome the speakers to the top table one by one, in no particular order, as they say. So firstly, I would like to welcome to the top table Mrs. FOLORUNSHO ALAKIJA, President of the Rose of Sharon Foundation, Nigeria. I would like to welcome Councillor Kate ANOLUE, the Worshipful Mayor of the London Borough of Enfield. I would like to welcome to the top table YINKA ESSIEN, founder of a Christian support group for African and Caribbean widows. And last but not least, I would like to welcome to the top table Dr. Karen BREWER, Right, first and foremost, the first person to speak will be Mrs. ALAKIJA, and I'd like to say a few words. The fuller version is in the brochure. Mrs. ALAKIJA is a philanthropist with a desire to help the needy. She's also a fashion icon, a businesswoman, a wife, a mother of four, and a grandmother. She oversees the Rose of Sharon Group as the Group Managing Director, and she's also the Executive Vice Chairman of her family's oil exploration and production business. She is the National President and lifelong trustee of the Fashion Designers Association of Nigeria. She is the founder of the Rose of Sharon Prints and Promotions, specializing in monogramming and screen printing for promotional and gift items. She runs a Digital Reality Print Limited, which specializes in highly technical digital large format printing, and she is the only female in that industry to date. As a Christian since 1991, she draws her strength from her unfaltering belief in the power and the glory of God. Her philanthropic endeavors, such as the Rose of Sharon Foundation, continue to positively influence her native land by empowering widows and their families, as well as orphans to be successful through educational programs and scholarships. At 61, wow, unbelievable. Mrs. ALAKIJA oversees her business and philanthropic enterprises, working tirelessly. I think there's a typo here. Working tirelessly with boundless energy. Her foremost desire is to give glory to God and to share the secret of her success. She's hoping to inspire the younger generation with her motto, "Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well." The title of Mrs. ALAKIJA's speech is that of her biography, and it's Growing with the Hand That Gives the Rose, the secret to my success in business and why I set up the Rose of Sharon Foundation. Please give her a warm welcome.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Praise the living Jesus.
Hallelujah.
In Jesus' name.
Pray.
It's wonderful to be in a room full of changes. You're all changes in one way or the other. So I give glory to God for the opportunity He's given me to be here. I'd like to thank those who came with me all the way from Nigeria. Can you please be upstanding? Including my personal assistant, who's a bit shy. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you for being here. It's an opportunity to be able to interact with you and to know you and to know about your work. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Media, for inviting me. Right. Where do I start? Let me start with, how many people are university graduates here? Can I see a show of hands? Thank you. Quite a lot. How many are married, whether you're male or female? Quite a few. Thank you. How many know the Lord or desire to know the Lord? Thank you. How many desire to get married at some point in their lives? Who are still seeking? SS, I call them. You're still seeking? You will find the right partner in Jesus' name. So I believe I have a room full of those who would be willing to hear some of what I have to say. In one way or the other, it touches and it goes across all those that are here. So everybody should be interested, so I'm quite happy to do that. Where do I start? I come from a family of initially 52 children, now left with 46. My father had 8 wives. I remember one day one of my children said, "Mommy, how did your daddy do it? Did he line them up and kept on saying next?" So we joke over that. It's a private joke, but now you know what that means. Anyway, we thank God for an opportunity like this once again. I'd like to tell you how I got to be where I am. I can assure you that everything has been through the special grace of God. It hasn't been through what I have been able to do. It's been what He has been able to do through me and with me. So I give Him all the glory at every opportunity that I get. I did not go to university, not that I didn't want to. In fact, maybe I would have joined the female lawyers group that are gathering together now, I don't know. I wanted to be a lawyer, but my father wouldn't let me. My father was half educated. He only went through primary school, but he was a self-made man. He became a billionaire of those days. He married my mom as the first wife and later married several others. At some point, he decided that he was going to send 2 of his children abroad to study. And his first choice at the time was one of my half-sisters, who was 6. And she was one of the children of one of the favored wives. Favored, well, from his own criteria, not from God's criteria. So there came a point where he needed to choose who would be the second person that would go along with her so that she wouldn't be homesick. Initially, he chose a man, a young boy, a brother, and somebody said, but how would that be compatible, a boy and a girl? No, that's not right. Anyway, the lot fell on me because our ages weren't far from one another. I was 7, she was 6. So that's how I got to go to England at that age. Spent 4 years, came back to Nigeria, entered secondary school, which was chosen for me because that was the school where we ended up not having any exams to get into the school, called Shagamu, the school there called Shagamu, Muslim high school for that matter. So when the principal saw us, he said, "Oh, I'm a So anyway, to cut a long story short, I went back to England. I went to study the secretarial course, because my father said, you cannot go and study law. You cannot study law because that will take too long. You're a woman and you will end up in one man's house and you will change your name to that man's name. And where's my name? So, as far as he was concerned, it's a waste of money to spend money on women's education. That was his thinking at the time. So I had to do a short course, do a quickie, and come back home. But later on in life, you know, as you know, he grew wiser, and you know, eyes began to open more. My other female siblings were able to study whatever they liked later on, but I had to do the secretarial course. So I am not a university graduate. But nevertheless, I give glory to God because God apparently had been using my father to make that choice for me. Because he wanted to take me to the point where I would not be satisfied being what I was, a secretary. Well, I thank God that what God had imputed in me required a bit more, or wanted a bit more from me than that. So I wasn't satisfied, although I accepted it reluctantly. So I worked for several years as a secretary. And I remember working in IMB for almost 12 years. Well, that's a long story as well. At the end of my sojourn in IMB, I had gone from one department to the other. I had excelled in each department that I was put in. And the latter part, I did an in-house banking course with 10 other bankers and MBA holders. And we had an exam at the end of our course. I came 5th to the glory of God. So I knew what my abilities were if I was ever given the chance. So I started working as a treasury officer, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I saw it purely as trading, and I love business. I love trading. Even while I was working all those years, within the 12 years, I would hop over to Italy for a weekend, buy goods, come back and sell to my friends. I wasn't spending my salary. I was spending my intakes, buying stocks and shares. You remember the indigenization decree? You remember? You were born, of course you were. I'm not trying to rub it in, but I'll be 62 in July. Anyway, so I was saving up. I also remember building my first house when I was in IMB. We had the opportunity of borrowing money from the bank at 3% interest in those days. I left the bank when I realized that the bank was hiring people who were university graduates, and they were putting them above me. And I had, you know, pulled up on my socks, I had rolled up my sleeves. At every point in time that I was there, I'd put in my best every time, and I felt cheated. I felt that the bank was being unfair to me. They appreciated my work, but it had a funny way of showing me that. They told me that at every point in time, you know, but when I began to see that happen, I said to myself that, no, I can't stay here. When am I going to end up being a manager or a general manager? You know, they kept on putting more clogs in the wheel, and it seemed so far away from my reach. So I felt that, you know, the time was up for me to leave. So I decided, you know, on looking inwards, and decided to study fashion design. So, because I believe in doing things properly, I decided to resign and to go back to England the third time to study fashion design. One of my siblings had said that encouraged me to carry on with the bank and just hire tailors and put them there and carry on with my work, but that wasn't going to be the way FOLORUNSHO, would want it. So I left, I studied fashion design, and I came back again. I set up my own label. I launched it after about 2 months of setting up. I launched it on the 1st of November, and Monday I was invited by Daily Times Leisure Services, who were in charge of fashion competitions that were being run by the Daily Times group. And initially, because I was rather tired launching the label, I wanted to rest a bit. But FOLORUNSHO is not the type that runs away from challenges. So I decided to take up the challenge. So I put in for the competition, and to the glory of God, I won the competition. And that was a new phase of my life, because the Daily Times used it to promote my business, and I was in the papers all the time. And that brought a lot of clientele from all walks of life. Supreme Stitches was the label at the time, and it was widely accepted both at home and abroad, and people were proud to wear my label. I'd like to correct a point. I'm no longer the president of the Fashion Designers Association of Nigeria. I'm their life trustee. I was president for almost 6 years. I give God the glory. I continue to support the fashion industry and to encourage all those who are in the industry and who want to get into the industry. Fashion is my passion. It doesn't go away, it's in the blood. So far for fashion. How did I get into book writing? Several years back, the Lord had told me that I'm going to author books. And I wondered, how could that ever be? Me, write? Please. Well, if it's the Lord that said it, I might as well just wait for it and accept it. But my initial reaction was, how's that going to happen? Anyway, there's a story to every book. When I was leaving the fashion industry, as in not doing full-time fashion, I decided to put together a magazine. It was the first of its kind. It was a 208-page magazine, full-color magazine. I wanted to use it to project the industry in Africa. I called it Fashion, the African Connection. And I showcased several designers at home and within the African continent. I sold them in Nigeria, and I sold them in England. And the proceeds of the sales of that magazine, I tucked it away in a fixed deposit. And then, because my fashion house was on a high street in Surulere, which is very central within Lagos, I used to get a lot of walk-ins from those who were less privileged, who wanted help, usually financial help. So they would walk in. By that time, I had become a born-again Christian. I would stretch out my hand and, give them whatever it is that I could afford. And I would use the opportunity to minister to them. I always had brand new Bibles at hand. And, I would follow up with them. But what I didn't realize was that they were going to the next person who was in need and telling them about me, that, oh, there's a woman in one building over there, that building that has a rose at the top on, I didn't know, Busoya. Yes, if you go in there, she'll help you. Then I began to ask the Lord, that what is it exactly that he would have me do? So I called a few of my friends together as trustees. We set up a foundation. And we decided that whatever steps that we're ever going to take, at every point in time, we'll always take it to the Lord in prayer, rather than take decisions on our own. So we did that. And on one occasion, when I was praying, asking God to lead me on, about the ministry, so he dropped a verse in my heart. Immediately, I knelt down and asked that question. And when I turned to my Bible, which is James 1:27, I rushed to read it. I was so excited. When you hear from the Lord, you're very excited. Oh, I've heard from God, I've heard from God. Oh, what's he saying? You know, that sort of thing. So I was taken aback when I found out that he was asking me to visit widows and orphans. When the Lord talks to you, whatever he tells you to do, you better accept it with trembling and work towards it, because there's no way out of it. So if you delay it, you are delaying yourself. If you don't want to do it, you'll have yourself to blame. So you might as well just embrace it and just get on with it. So I did that. Then on the 23rd of May 2008, we launched the Rose of Sharon Foundation. We asked the Lord, he gave us the logo, he gave us the name. And we only had 3 widows for a year and a half, until one day he spoke. When we were worried and we were asking him, where are we going to get these widows? We know there are widows, but where are they hiding? So he said, go on air. So we went on air, and a hall bigger than this suddenly in one day was full of widows. Over maybe 220 or 230 of them turned up that day. And that's how we started our Widows Empowerment Program. What do we do for the widows? We empower them with microcredits, interest-free. And the orphans as well, we had very few orphans at the beginning. But for the widows, we take 2 children from each family and we send them to school from whichever level that they come to us, so that we come to them. Then we send them to school up to tertiary level. You know, that's university that I never went to. So we empower them, you know, up to university. Then we got swarmed, and we could not believe that there were that many widows in Nigeria. We would go around visiting them, counseling them, encouraging them, loving them, and trying to help them out as much as we could. We still do that till today. In fact, I know that the best is yet to come. It's just the beginning, because it's incredible. It's the number of widows that are out there. It's just incredible. Anyway, we've reached 4 states. Our overall vision is to go nationwide with the same intentions, because we don't believe in giving people fish. We believe in teaching them how to fish. Because that would make them content, that would make them self-confident. They won't need to go cap in hand to knock on doors. And we find that even their in-laws and friends and relations who abandoned them initially, then now begin to embrace them. We've had all sorts of stories from all quarters. And we've had lots of widows that have made us proud, and lots of orphans that have made us proud. Just last week, I attended the graduation of one of our orphans, a family of 5 children who have no mother, no father, who were introduced to us by their church priest. And another one of them is graduating before the end of this year. And 2 others are entering university next year, to the glory of God. So, you know, it gladdens our hearts when we see that we can bring about change in the lives of those who have nowhere else to go. The foundation has bought a property in Yaba that's over 7,000, about 7,000 square meters, where we intend to build our headquarters, and we intend to build schools in every state. Now, the autobiography, the story of how that came about. I attend courses from time to time to improve myself. And on one of such occasions, I registered at the Lagos Business School for an owner-manager course. I also registered for a BA degree in Christian ministry online. I started that course, and to the glory of God, I found that apart from the first course I took, where I earned a B+, all my other courses, I earned A+, A-, to the glory of God. And then my father died. A month later, my mother died. And he said, so what are you still doing there? He died in the morning, showed himself up to my mom. I never believed in such things until it actually happened to my father and mother. That actually happened. My father died in Victoria Island. My mother had moved 3 years before that to Ikorodu to settle, and he showed up to her in her living room in Ikorodu, and he said, and my mom was talking to him. Nobody could see him, but her chauffeur was right beside her, and she was saying, Lamidi Mailo, Lamidi, which means, Lamidi, don't go yet, don't go yet, don't go yet. And I was like, Mama, it's just you and I, what are you talking about? So, she cried endlessly for a whole week. She ended up in St. Nicholas Hospital. The doctor didn't know what was wrong with her. 3 weeks after that incident, she died. Which means he came back for her. His first love. His first love. The first person he ever said that I want to marry you to. So he went away with her. I was traumatized because my mother had been a big influence on my life. She was a diligent, hardworking, disciplinarian, no-nonsense woman. She never saw the walls of a school. She never went to school. But I learned so much from her. Everything I know today, from textiles, trading, housekeeping, cooking, she taught me. And she didn't teach just me, she taught all her children, 7 of us. 2 girls, 5 boys. All my brothers know how to cook, and myself and my sister. And I've passed on the same values to my children. All my children, 4 boys, they all know how to cook, they all know how to clean. Yes, they came to school in this country, but at every opportunity, come half term, okay, I share the rooms out, I share the toilets out. You take this, you take that, you take. So, everybody gets into their shorts, and we all share the housework. I remember once that we needed to paint the ceiling of our house. I called a painter, and he charged us £200. £200 then, no, £2,000. £2,000 then for painting the ceilings of 2 apartments, I'm sure would be like £6,000 now. So I put the children in the car. We went to, was it B&Q? We bought rollers, we bought paint, we bought a ladder, and what else did we buy? We bought the bowl for the rollers. And we spent £200. I got into my husband's boxer shorts. We bought tape as well, sticky tape. So within 2 days, myself and my boys, we had painted all the ceilings in our 2 apartments. And I called my husband. I said, you know what, you owe me. I just saved you £1,800. He said, why did you do that? As if he wasn't pleased. So, anyway, that's just a joke on the side. But, just to let you know that, we have to pass values on to our children, get them to, know how to work, make money and save money. I remember that I would make boxer shorts. Some of them would come to me and say, Mommy, please, can you make some boxer shorts? I need to sell them in school. And they were selling the boxer shorts to their friends in school. Yes. I would buy the fabrics in Tinumbu. I would buy the elastic. I'd make the boxer shorts. And this one would say, I need 12. And so would say, give me 6. And another one would say, I need 18. I've got more customers than you. So they sold boxer shorts in King's School. They sold boxer shorts. I also remember that the wings of turkey wings. I did turkey wings. I smoked turkey wings once, and they loved it. And they said, "Oh, please, can we go and sell these to our friends?" So I made more turkey wings each time they were going back to school. And they went and they sold them to their friends. And some of their friends would come, please, can you give me Flo, can you give me the recipe, please? Oh no, I'll be letting out the secrets. They'd go. So, you know, it was fun. It was fun. But how did I get to write the autobiography? I did the online course. I did a peer review of an English essay. And the essay, the topic for the essay was anything that brought change into your life. A short autobiography on anything that brought change into your life. So I decided to write on my trip, and that of my sister, of course, to England at the age of 6 and 7, and when we came back at the age of 10 and 11. That was when I discovered my writing skills. I decided to also share it with my LBS colleagues, and both my colleagues, my online colleagues of the Christian Ministry course and the Lagos Business School course, all came back with feedback. Wow, you must write your autobiography. This is awesome. And at the time, I was 58 and a half. I said, okay, not to worry, I'll make a promise. When I'm 60, I will write it. When I'm 60, I will launch it, but you have to promise that you'll buy one. And that's how we struck the deal. So that was when I wrote that autobiography, To the Glory of God. However, in between that time, God had said through 3 different people at different times, within the space of about 2 or 2.5 years, that my daughter write a book on marriage. Before it became that clear, I thought he just wanted me to do an article on marriage. So I read up on Esther, I did a little write-up, and I put it away. Then one of them calls me one day and says, Mrs. ALAKIJA, the Lord told me that you haven't done what he said. I said, but I have. I said, no. And then she ended it up with, it is well. So I just carried on doing what I was doing. And then one day, a friend came to visit me from Abuja, and she came with 7 pastors. And one of them, at the end of our prayer session, said, Madam, God wants you to write a book on marriage. That was the second one. The third one, a friend who is not here now, who can come with us today, is a member of our fellowship. She called me on a Sunday afternoon and said, Auntie, I was praying jejely in my church for myself. And then suddenly, God told me to tell you that you must go and write a book on marriage. So the die was cast. That was a command. What more could I wait for? So I decided that, okay, I better write this book. So I prayed to God for 4 months to give me a title for the book. When I didn't hear anything, so I decided to write. So I started writing, and I remember, if Mrs. Osho can bear me out, we were in Italy, we were attending an exhibition, and I would wake up around 5 a.m. and I would start writing. And then I remember after that trip, I also went to Dubai, and just as I got into my hotel, I continued writing, and all of a sudden I just saw a flash across my laptop, which said, University of Marriage. I could have missed it. I could have missed it. I thank God that I caught it. So that's University of Marriage book on marriage. So I've been married for almost 37 years to the glory of God. So I've put in there a lot, not just for those who are already married, those who are aspiring to be married, those who want to buy presents for those who are getting married. Everybody needs what's in that book. There's a lot of information in there. And as you do, God will help you to have a much better marriage, a blissful marriage, and it will help you to encourage others in their marriages. You know how it is that, how women talk about whatever it is that's going on in their marriages, with their friends. There's a lot of advice in there that you can pass on to them. So I encourage you to buy both books. My next book is going to be on widows, the plight of widows. We're going to be launching that in April, in May, to mark the 5th anniversary of the Rose of Sharon Foundation. So I invite you to come on the 31st of May and on the 1st of June. So on those 2 days, we're going to be hosting all the widows that we have empowered. There are 962 widows that we have empowered. We have given scholarships to 1,372 widows' children and scholarships to 73 orphans. And out of the widows that we have empowered, 11 of them are in university. Many of them are trading, and many of them are in one vocation or the other, to the glory of God. So I'd like to encourage each and every one of us to try and find out what our destinies are. God has a destiny for each and every one of us. He had already charted it before he put you in your mother's womb, before you came into this world. He entered into a covenant with you, and you entered into a covenant with him without knowing. So you have to discover what it is. The oil industry, how did I get into that? Why? The oil industry came up through a friend who had associates who wanted to buy crude oil from America. They had approached her, and she had approached me, and I had approached others, and the result was that they didn't want to invest in Nigeria. The minister at the time had informed all of us that Nigeria was really looking into giving encouragement to indigents in Nigeria to go into the oil industry, rather than limiting it to just the multinational oil companies. So they didn't want to invest in Nigeria, they only wanted to lift. So because those doors were already open, we decided to continue to knock on all those doors to try and find ways and means of actually making a way for ourselves in that industry. We tried to introduce so many services, including catering, including transportation of crude from one point to the other. I know that we were discouraged that Nigeria was going to stop doing that because they were going to link pipelines and no longer go use trucks for crude from one location to another. Catering services, that was shut in our face as well. But you see, that was all part of growing with a hand that gives the rose, because God had a leading, and during that time, because there were so many doors that were shutting in our faces, it helped me to begin to know the Lord and to begin to cry to the Lord in prayer. And because of that, I became born again. And I struck a deal with the Lord. I said, you know what? I'll enter into a second covenant with you. My first covenant with you was when I came into this world. My second one will be, if you'll do this, I'll serve you all my life. And he did. And the rest is history. Here we are, to the glory of God. The stone that the builders rejected became the chief cornerstone. The block that nobody wanted was allocated to us. A big oil company had been allocated the same block, and they returned it. They said it was too deep and too expensive to explore, and technology had not reached that depth because it was deep offshore. Well, they had to return it. It wasn't meant for them. God had a reason. He had a need. The oil had been collecting in there for 17 million years, and there was a reason why they weren't the ones, because they weren't going to use it for the widows, were they? No. Precisely. So, to God be the glory. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. You agree with me that it is difficult for Mrs. Alakija to squeeze such an illustrious and fantastic career, and you know, from banking to fashion to setting up you know, charity for widows and a little bit of DIY in between. You know, it's absolute, and you know. Her skills being passed from her mother and her passing, you know, her skills and ability to her children. It's absolutely awesome. So without further ado, because we are, you know, a bit short on time, and I want the other speakers to get in there and see whether we can get in any questions. I'm going to, without further ado, pass it on to Councillor Kate ANOLUE. I'll just quickly say a few words by way of introduction. Councillor Kate ANOLUE is the current mayor of the London Borough of Enfield. Prior to that, she served as the... Hold on, I need my glasses. I hate this. Prior to that, she served as the deputy mayor of that borough. She represents Upper Edmonton Ward and was first elected to council in 2002. Councillor ANOLUE is a qualified lawyer and a registered midwife with over 35 years' experience. If midwifery was her vocation, it could be argued that politics and working within the community became her mission and inspiration throughout. She's the governor of 2 schools in Enfield, a member of the Racial Equality Council in Enfield, a panel member of the Health Scrutiny, and vice chairman of the Association of British Nigerian Councillors. Councillor ANOLUE has 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. She was tragically widowed when the youngest child was only 18 months old. Today, these children are all graduates and working. The Mayor is going to say a few words about her journey as a widow and a woman in leadership. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you so much. And good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I don't know what to say, but I haven't got a cap on, but I'll take it off for you. You know, while she was talking, I was kind of trying to dry my eyes, because at a point, I felt like she's actually talking to me. See, I'm gonna try quickly. Similarity, you know, with children. You're one of 7, and I'm one of 7. 5 boys and 2 girls, exactly. You know, yes. See that? Yes. That is the only similarity. Yes, the Holy Spirit. Yes. And the other opposite is that my father, I owe him every single thing. My father is one that believes in gender equality. I'm the eldest, 5 boys and another girl. You know exactly, she told us exactly what Nigerians would think. Don't train the girls, train the boys. The girls will get married and that's it. But for some reason, my father said, no, if you train the girls, when she gets married, she'll be useful to the husband, and then you'll be able to ask him to help you to train the boys, his boys. And even if she doesn't work, she'll be at home and she'll help the children with their homework. So this is the logic my father had. And I married very early, but that does no problem. Reason is because after the Civil War, it became a little bit hard for him. I was married up, but he made sure that I got that foundation, and that foundation was education. And like you also said, parents want us to do what they feel that is what we need to do. So my father, all he wanted me to be is a nurse. And even when I was getting married off, he said, if you're not going to let her do nursing, you better leave her. When I finish with her, you can come back if she's still there. You know. So he said, it's all right. I'll let her do nursing. You know, so, and when I came in here, I already had a good background education-wise. When I got here in 71, within 6 months, I got a place at North Middlesex to train as a nurse. And because I had the education, it was easy for me to pass the objective test they normally give. My mother is the one that is the disciplinarian. I didn't have time for, like we talk about youths, what the youths do and so forth. There was no time for that because I was also primary school. I went to, a convent school where, they're very, very strict. So my life was kind of held together. There was nothing like being disruptive or anything. But that's okay because for me, it helped me to grow up. It gave me that security within myself that, yes, I came in a foreign place where I know nobody, the only person I know was that husband. But him also, being someone who listens and who keeps his word, made sure that I go into nursing. And within 3 years that I came, I had my certificate as a state registered nurse. And even within that time, within that 3 years, I've already been landed with 2 children. So I actually was active as a wife, as a professional, and as a mother. We juggled that. We were able to juggle it because also he made sure that he helps. So we worked together like pairs, and we really worked together. Things were easy for me. Because even to go to work, he would take me and drop me and come back for me, especially if I'm doing night shift. So he comes back, drop me at work. But then, everything was going well. By the time I was, by the time 4 years, I already had another qualification as a midwife. So by the time we came to 1984, I've been loaded with 4 children, full-time midwife. But then, things were going very rosy, but not until a day, October 17, 1985. That was when darkness befell me. And that was when a bell knocked at the door. I opened, and I was told my husband was tragically killed at an accident. So now I was left with 4 children in a foreign land. The youngest, 18 months old. So when you're talking, everything was coming to me. And you see, why I was holding back tears is widows in Nigeria suffer. Widows in Nigeria suffer. Although I'm here, when we went, I took the remains home. The whole story is, I killed my husband. And think about that. So, you killed your husband to bring up 4 children on your own? Can you see what logic? This is why, as you were talking, I was feeling for those widows. Because I know what they were going through. I only stayed at home for 10 days during the burial. And I tell you, I had it. The sisters, the relatives, everybody. You must, in fact, when I came back to London, I was summoned back to come and tell them what happened to their brother. And that was a year after my husband died. I need to go home to take the, to go for church, the 1 year. It was a terrible experience. Nobody was asking me, how am I coping with those 4 young children in a foreign place where I don't have my sisters, I don't have anybody? You see, my story, I can't tell it all because I tell you a little bit and I leave the others. It's this situation when, like today, there is something happening at the Council Common, but when I hear the word widow, I want to go there. I want to go there. Esther had, function some time ago. I was there because I know what it is to be a widow. I feel a bit secured because I'm here. But back home, I won't have survived. Because if nobody is asking you about what's happening to the children, How would you cope when someone is telling you at all time that you are the cause? That is the problem we have. So it's just not being a widow. It's what follows next. But I was able to overcome that because I live here. And I know that when my husband died, as far as I'm concerned, I have no family anymore. Because I've always believed that a husband, a wife, and the children are family. If one is missing, no more family. But someone called me and said, no, you still got a family. You've got to wake up. And I remember Mr. Ajala, who is the godparent to my youngest, the one that called me and said, Kate, you got to wake up. You've got a load that you're carrying. Everybody will give you advice. Yes? But it is the advice you give to yourself that matters. Because everybody gives you advice, it goes here and it goes out there. But you have to give yourself advice and say, wake up. What would you like? You've talked about widows, you talked about orphans. Do you want your children to be orphans? That means you've got to wake up. And there is a saying back home that God does not give you the cross that you cannot carry. He gives you that cross, but it's got to give you the shoulder to carry it. You know, that was the time I said to them in those early days, I said, my shoulder is heavy. I don't think I can carry. And I was told, you can carry it. And what has helped me more is where I was working. See, there is something about when you are working in any place, have a good relationship with everybody. Just think about it. This is where I am living, something to sustain me. Don't make enemies, because you never know the day that you need their help. And it was that good relationship that I had at work that was able to, when I said I'm coming back to work after 3 months, my boss said to me, don't worry, because I said I still need to do full time. He said, don't worry, we will sort out your work so that you'll be able to look after your children, pick them from work, and you still do 37 and a half hours. And that is what I did. And that is how I was able to maintain looking after the children and also working full time. And do have good friends. Do have good friends. A friend indeed is a friend in need. I had good friends. So their teenage daughters, when I'm on call in the night, they come and stay with the children. And then by the time I come back, they've had their bath, everything, and I sort out, and I drop them to school, and I drop them to school, I come back, have a little sleep, then it's time to go and pick them up, I'm off again to pick them up. But you have to have what we call determination. You have to have what we call trust in yourself. And you have to believe in yourself. Believing in yourself is success. And when you have a negative mind, then you can never do anything. Because negativity is the one that dissolves all the positive attitude or the positive function that is within your body. Once you say you can't, you can't. But if you say, yes, I can, there's no way you cannot. And I've always believed that I can. And I always say, when Obama said, I can, yes, you can. I've already said years and years ago that I can. And that is what has kept me being successful in bringing up those children. And also being able, not only bringing them up, being able to give them exactly what two parents could give to children. Making sure that I go to school when they're having like functions, sports, parents' evening. I was able to do that. And that is also by time management. And then we talk about, yes, my dad wants me to be a nurse. When my youngest came to 8-year-old, she can dress herself, she can feed herself, I can run them to the... And I thought myself, oh yes, my daddy wants me to be a nurse. But you, Kate, what did you actually want to be? And I know that I've always had the passion of law. And I said, I want to study law. And I thought, can you do it? Yes, I can. And I went and registered at Middlesex University, North London University. And when I got there, the lecturer said to me, but you're a midwife, you've got a profession, so why do you want to do this? I said, well, the thing is, I have that feeling that this is what I want to do. In as much as my daughter, when my daughter went to university, she studied law because I just love that profession. Well, it wasn't enough because I think, it's me that needed to do it, not people around me. Yes, I was able to register. I was able to study. What was I doing? I made sure that my books are always in the boot of my car. And if I need to change, that I've always got, in fact, my wardrobe. By the boot of my car was my wardrobe as well as my library. So I lacked nothing. And like I said about friend, this, my special friend, she's the only one that knew what I was doing. And the reason why I told her is in case I'm delivering a baby, because once you deliver babies, you have to write up the notes yourself. But if you have a good friend, just tell her all that is done. So she's always like standby. So I was able to study and kept my full-time job. I was able to look after the children. And not only that, I still engrossed myself within the community. I have something about women, because as a midwife, I see them, what they go through in labor. And then I meet a lot of women that go through domestic violence. And that was my first voluntary work that I did. I joined ENFIELD Women Aid, which deals with domestic women that have, experienced domestic violence. And also we have the ENFIELD Women Center that did all the women issues. So I got myself engrossed in that, and also the school. My children go to school. We all complain about how children are being excluded from schools. But how many of us are school governors? That is the most important, one of the most important things. That even if you cannot do it, speak to your friends. Because as a school governor, you are within them. You are there where decisions are made, and you are able to help in decision making. At the same time, you're able to know the sequences that anybody goes through, especially children that are being excluded from school. It's not just when he's done something bad, that's it. No, it goes through a very rigorous, steps before that happens. So that's how I got myself involved as well. And within 5 years, I got my degree. And study-wise, I studied with the young people. That's how I got to love the young people. And I said to them, don't call me Kate. You must call me Auntie Kate. And I studied with them. And one of them said, oh God, I thought I got rid of my mom, and that's why I'm going to university. And yeah, she goes again. But they love it, because what I've done is making sure that as I study with them, being a role model to them, they are there knowing that I got my certificate, I still want to study. They don't have it, so they've got to study even harder. So these are the things that I thought was good in being a role model. And I didn't stop there. When I finished my university, what then do I do now? Do I want to go into law? I remember that's where I met Jenny, and I said to Jenny, we're going to open a law firm. But then I couldn't leave those babies. I just love the babies. I continued with my midwifery. So what I did was to go in, use my my law knowledge in going into politics. That's how I got into politics. I've been in politics for the past 10 years, coming 11 years. So really, the most important thing, in conclusion, is do trust yourself. Do believe in yourself. Always say, I can. Because you find yourself alone, because I'm not talking just as a widow, remember that we have got women with children on their own. Don't give up. The door is open for you. Like she said, this is what we call destiny. Your destiny is in your palm. You can't see it, but it's there. And whatever it is that you're supposed to do, you will achieve it. And you need to allow yourself to look for it, and you will achieve it. Thank you very much.
Wonderful words from the mayor, and she is a complete inspiration. Her story It's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you, Mayor. You are an inspiration. You're doing actually what I read out was quite modest. You do an incredible amount of work in the community, not only in ENFIELD, in the Nigerian community, but in the African and wider community. So thank you for your work. We really admire what you're doing. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to YINKA ESSIEN now. YINKA ESSIEN is the founder of a Christian support group for African and Caribbean widows. She's also a pensions manager at Oval Pension Solutions. She's a mother of 3 boys, 3 wonderful boys, if I may say so. I know them all very personally, who was sadly widowed on the 12th of August 2005. 2.5 years on, she started a Christian support group for African and Caribbean women. This is a group that caters for widows, old and new. They come to share their experiences and be themselves in a group that understands them. Over the years, she has come to really know that God is truly a husband to the widow and the father to the fatherless, through her personal experience and the experience of other widows. She has always believed that God is in control regardless. Ladies and gentlemen, YINKA is going to talk on the importance of support group for women, looking at her experience. YINKA, over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to first say that when SEYE asked me to, or told me about this event last year, she said, YINKA, I want you to come and talk about your widows group. I looked at her and I said, and she said, yes, I'm planning it. Will you commit to it? I said, okay, yes. And then she reminded me, kept on reminding me, and I'm saying to myself, Father, Lord, what am I going to do there? What am I going to say? But the Lord is in control. Anyway, before I go on, and I listen to everybody that has spoken, I'm wondering what I'm doing here, but the Lord knows why. Yes? Okay. So, as I've been introduced, my name is YINKA ESSIEN, and I'll just give you, you've heard a lot, and I know people are tired, so I'll try and summarize mine quite quickly, but not missing out the key points. Okay? You can't hear me? Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I am a woman of 3 boys. Just before my husband passed away, I was pregnant and I had a baby, and he was 4 months. And my husband died in August. He traveled to Lagos. Last time I saw him on the shores of London was on the 4th of June 2005. But at that time, when all these men they're all trying to go back to Lagos to do business in Lagos. It's the time to go and do things in Lagos. And so he'd had enough. We had our own business here, and he said, look, he's had enough. We had our own dry cleaning business. And said he sold up and said, YINKA, I'm going to Lagos. Let's go. Let me go and see what's happening. So, okay, as a supportive wife, okay, my husband, off you go. And he started to convince me that Lagos was the place to be. So we started to gear our mind in that sense. And my first son was given, he got admission into Life Fort in Ibadan. So the plan was that he would go in September to Life Fort in Ibadan. So he'd gone and he was to pay the deposit. And after having my baby, I said, well, it's time to have a break. Let's go to America for a friend's 40th birthday. So off we went with my last, all my money, because I said I'm going on that holiday. So I sold my shares because my husband said there's no money right now, we're investing. I'm sure those of you that are married to self-employed people and people in Nigeria, all your money goes. Yeah? But it doesn't come back. So anyway, at that point, I said I'm going. I told my friends in America, I'm coming. Not 1 penny do I have to spend, but I'm coming with 3 children. So just get my pocket money ready. And off we went. We landed and we got there and I had to leave my kids in my friend's house, and then we went back to Tampa where the party was. So that day, you know when your spirit is kind of disturbing you a bit, my friend woke up and she was praying in her room, and in the middle of the morning, and I'm saying, okay, does she have to be a bit loud? Why is she so loud? So she was praying, and I just heard her start to cry. She was crying in the spirit, and I'm saying, well, sorry if you don't, for those that don't understand, I think you'll get the gist as I'm going. But basically, she was crying and crying, and I said, something was telling me this woman is crying for you. So I said, so I just left it and I backed her. And then she came over to me and said to me, Yinka, the Lord said, she had told me after that the Lord, she was struggling in her spirit. But the Lord was telling her, go and put your hands on her and tell her that the Lord has brought you all here for a purpose, you know, and that everything is under control. So when she said that over me, I said, yes, I knew that now. All my closest friends came from all over to Tampa, and we were all going to enjoy a friend's 40th. So no problems. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that night my husband died. So, but he was in Nigeria. We were oblivious to it. My friend's phone was switched off, so they couldn't get hold of us. So most people in London knew before I knew that my husband was dead. So when they eventually got us, I have some real theatrical friends who decided amongst themselves to come up with a plan to get me not to attend that party that I invited most people to, and go back on a plane from Tampa to LA. Anyway, it was painful because me, I'm a party monger, sorry. And I planned that party with all my last pennies. So when they convinced me that my friend was paying, I had to go back home. I had to go back to take her back. The story they gave me was that her husband had left her. Yes? Her husband that I left my children with had decided that he's not marrying my friend anymore. Do you understand that? Yes? So I said, you must be joking, and I introduced them, okay? So I brought them together and they got married. So I said to myself, I said, you must be joking. How can he leave my children and go and get and say he's leaving my friend? And I said to my friend, what the heck have you done? What have you done? She said, I'm so upset. Anyway, she got me back to LA, to cut a long story short. Very painfully, I almost abused the people in the airport because, you know, they told me, my friend said to me, Yinka, look, if you can't take her back, you know she's pregnant and she's very upset, that she will have to. So I had to just say, okay, party go, let me support my friend. Got back to LA, and they met me there. Basically, they told me that my husband had died. So I said, okay, right. So my children and I were then told to basically sit down around the table, and they came up with a plan. And this is when you're talking about friendship. I had my best friends around me at that time. So they sat me down and said, right, this is what you have to do, blah, 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 blah. Arrange, do you have travel insurance, do you have, no. Okay, we need to buy new tickets to get you guys back. Peak time, August. We were 3, and then 2 of my sister and her son. Anyway, they got me back to London. They bought me new tickets because my tickets were non-refundable. Bearing in mind that I've told them that I haven't got 1 penny. Yes? So they brought me back to London. They also gave me my money to go to Nigeria to go and bury my husband. So they gave me $5,000 on top of getting me back to London. And, you know, when it comes to saying that God is the father, the wife to the widow, I really, really understand that. You have to go through it to really understand it. But from having nothing to the Lord providing you with a ticket, and not only one ticket, business class. I've never traveled business class in my life, but the Lord took me back. My husband always used to say to me, what is wrong with you? You keep on managing yourself. You need to move up. You're not a small girl. So I told him when I was going back, I said, guess what? I'm coming business class. Come and see you. You know? I'm sorry, I crack jokes, but that's generally how it is. You know, life has to go on. Okay? So we went home, we buried my husband. So after that, we got back to London. Everybody, they paid money into my account. I was living, I had no money before, I now had money. It was like, I'm not used to having money, you know, and we got through that. So the Lord kept on dropping nuggets in my spirit to say, okay, you need to start a group. And I just did like this. And 1 year passed, I came again, you need to start a widows group. I said, widows group, how am I going to widows group? Anyway, after a long time, after he slapped me a few times, I listened and I did what I was supposed to do. So I knew a few widows, so I called them up and said, look, the Lord has said, I need to start a widows group, are you willing to come? So I have one person here, she's our senior ex-widow, because she's in the group here. She's now married, she's remarried after 14 years of widowhood. So we give glory to that. No, my friend over there, Yinka. Yes. So we started in my house, about 6 of us. And at that time I said to people, I said, I don't really know what, they asked me, what did you do? I said, I don't know. The Lord said I should get you together and we'll take it from there. And as God just took over, and every meeting we have, God has an agenda for that meeting. He comes in and a specific topic or two will come out of the meeting. And by the time you finish, everybody's looking at each other. They won't go home. They will sit down, discuss, and what did you think, and this, and that. And it just gives me so much joy, to see women that were broken. I have one here, she's probably hiding. But, she was hard. She was a hard one. Elizabeth, show yourself. Yes, she was, we're all different as human beings, and some of us are stronger than others. And some people just don't know, how to deal with the situation that you're in. But I have basically, with the help of all the other widows, been able to grow everybody up to understand that, yes, your husband's dead, but life's got to go on. You understand? You can't sit down and mope and moan. If you like, leave all your envelopes, don't open them, close your door, close your windows, oh, my husband, I miss my husband, but he's gone. And I know when they say, when you're getting married, it says, till death do you part. Yes? It is indeed till death do you part. Once your husband is gone, you have parted. So that's it, the relationship is over. It's painful to say that, but it's over. You can't get him back, and you just have to acknowledge that fact that he's gone. And you have to deal with your children. Nobody else will sit down with you and, look after your children for you. So you have to tighten your belt and move on, and not everybody wants to remain a widow. Some people do want to remain a widow, they don't want to remarry. That's their choice. But you have to live your life and be happy. And, be an example to your children. In our group, believe it or not, I don't know why, but everybody in my group wants to remarry. So that means that, there must have been something good in their marriage before for them to want to get married, But by the grace of God, as I said, my Yinka over there, when she got married, so she out of the group now. I said, no. Oh no, she's in the group, because there are people that are going to come into the group that want to remarry. And she'll be there to be able to counsel them how she went through and what happened. So, as I said, my group is a widow's group at the moment, and so, yes, we have a married lady, and by God's grace, I will follow soon. So I will be getting married soon. So but I'm not going to leave the widow's group, because I have things to give to my group. And by the grace of God, we will continue to bless others. I must say, I said to my friend over there, Bob, I said, I don't know what I'm doing here really, but I now know why I'm here. Because just listening to that lady over there, when God says it's time to, you've been in your comfort zone for a while now, and I've helped all my widows to a degree, and I think we are all at levels where we've kind of got to be, okay, we're okay now, we can live our lives. But now it's to do something else. And when I heard about what she does in Edo, and the things that you're doing, that's a different level. My support group is generally for the person, for us to build you back up and get you out there to be able to live your life like a normal person. Widows are not people to go around with black things on their head, you know. I mean, somebody said to me when I started the group, he said, you know, so how are you going to recruit new members? And he was very serious, you know. He's a man, of course. He was only a man without such a stupid question. You know. But, you know, I'm not going to go around shooting people. But, you know, why would you people, you know, go to a widow's group? You know, would you people go and do their cry and start to roll on the floor? No. So, you know, it's not about that. You have to. It has to have happened to you for you to actually understand what we do there. You know, believe it or not, people are dying every day. You know, I don't go looking for them, but they die. And people call me and say, oh, Yinka, so and so has lost their husband. You know, can you go and see that person and stuff like that? But you know, and that's life. We're all going to die one day. You just pray that you won't go before your time, but when is your time? You know, and so, you know, just to round up, I just would like to, you know, encourage you, you know, if you have widows as friends or, you know, family, you know, just support them. You go to funerals, and everybody says, oh, sorry, I'm there for you, I'll be there for you. You know, I am here, and I'm there. Oh boy, let me tell you something. It is me and my ears. Yes? So you need, you know, when you don't, it's easy to say things, and I know you people mean well, but at the end of the day, you know, don't promise what you can't do. Yes? Be there. You don't have to give people money, but support, you know, help them, encourage them, you know, but just be there for them. But I'm here for my widows, and I believe I will be moving up to the next level, by God's grace. But as I said, you know, may the Lord be with us all. Widows, God is in control. He definitely is our husband. He has provided so much for me and for my group. The testimonies of my group are awesome. Awesome. I can't talk. One day I will tell the story and maybe write a book, you know. But, you know, may the Lord continue to keep us all and raise up people to support widows, because it's hard. It is hard. You know, you have to manage yourself and your kids and your work, and you have to pay bills. But he is my husband. He is my heavenly husband, and the Lord has given me a new husband. So all things are possible, and may the Lord bless us all, and just continue to support us by God's grace. So, but the lady in black, we will have to stay in contact and start to do things together by God's grace. Amen. Thank you.
I think, Yinka, thank you so much. It was, I mean, you know, solid as usual. I mean, you're just an example, and you know, you're a tower of inspiration and strength. Dr. Brewer, I won't go into your profile because I think you've got something to say, and I don't know how long we've got the room for. So I'm simply going to say, for Dr. Brewer's profile, could you just kindly look into your programs, because we are really, you know, short of time, and I just want to make sure that we get to hear from Secretary General of the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association, and she's going to speak on legal rights and support for widows.
Basically, I got involved in Widows' Rights International about 3 years ago, and my involvement was spurred on by the death of my father. As everybody's been talking about their own personal views, I thought I would set the scene a little bit. As the only legal-minded person in the family, I was tasked with helping with the administration of his estate, and I saw firsthand what widows go through by experiencing what my stepmother went through, dealing with grief, but also having to deal with all the administration and dealing with all the problems that come after the death of a husband. So that has helped me understand some of the plight of widows across the world. But the main issue is that wherever we are in the world, the plight of widows is not recognised. It isn't recognised in any international convention as such. The only international convention that recognises the plight of widows is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which specifically mentions widows and the plight in relation to the inhumane and degrading treatment and even life-threatening treatment that they suffer. Somebody asked before how many widows there were in the world. We don't have any statistics. That is a main big problem for us, because there is when you do census records, there is nowhere on any census records in the world. I think there may be one country now, Ghana, that has introduced it now, but apart from them, there is nowhere on the census form that you can put to say you are a widow. So far. So we are campaigning as Widows' Rights International to try and bring this to the forefront at both a national level and an international level. We estimate, though, that there are about 245 million widows in the world. Half of these widows are in poverty, living in poverty, and over 20%, maybe even 25 to 30%, are under the age of 40. So we're not talking about elderly widows, we're talking about young women. Many of them are child widows in countries like Tanzania, and in India, of course, there are thousands of young widows who are married off as child brides at the age of 12 and then become widows very shortly after, because their husbands are 95. And well, it's true. These things happen, and they are considered to be tainted. Widows are tainted. They've got the evil spirit. Somebody said, you said you killed your husband, so therefore you have to go through a purification system. We all know these purification rituals are horrendous and inhumane. They're violations against human rights, any decent human rights norms in the world. And as the children who go through these burial mourning rites are even worse off, because they aren't covered. Once you are married, you are not covered by the Treaty on the Rights of the Child. So therefore, you have no rights as a woman or a child in these circumstances. I mentioned the young child brides because it is a major issue now in the world. But we are looking at hopeful situations, because at the moment, as we speak, in New York, the Commission on the Status of Women is meeting this week and next week. And one of the major issues around the world is that they should put widows' rights right in the forefront of what's going on. And there's a big campaign around the world at the moment to get widows' rights on the agenda. Our own organisation, Widows' Rights International, is trying, and I want to talk to some of the people. Unfortunately, I'll give out my card and people can contact me, because we're trying to gather information on the different networks in different places so that we can work together. In places like India and Asia, they're very well organised on a national level, but in many countries in Africa, we're still only organised on a community level. The community organisations are doing a fantastic job in trying to change cultural attitudes towards widows, in trying to provide support for widows, in trying to build houses for widows and microfinancing, so that they can and change cultural attitudes for the leaders of society, the community leaders, the chiefs of villages and of communities. But at a national level, there's still a lot of countries that don't have national widows organisations, and we are trying to coordinate the best practice of the various different community groups, so that we know what works in certain countries, what can be replicated in other countries, what could be used as good practice in various countries. There are many examples. There are projects in Uganda which are very, very helpful. The law is there, the constitutions are there, but unfortunately the practices still exist, and it doesn't matter how many laws you write, unless you change people's attitudes and cultural practices, people will continue to do what they've done for generations. And it's not just an African issue, it is a worldwide issue. We've seen what has happened in Asia and India. In the South Pacific, they have the same burial rights as cutting off your hair, taking your property away. You're not allowed to inherit customary land as a woman. You're kicked out of customary land. The property is taken away. You're forced into marriage with a brother or another relative of your husband, of your dead husband, and in some cases it may be a nephew, or the son of one of the other wives, which is horrendous when you consider it. I mean, I'm giving you a very bleak picture because these are the issues that still exist. And what we're trying to do is in Widows' Rights International, is try to make sure that everybody knows that in the international community. Firstly, get it onto the agenda. We have a Widows' Day. We've had Widows' Days for 2 years now, on the 23rd of June. But that's not enough. We want it to be in the treaties. We want it to be in the international treaties. Widows' rights have been recently, Widows' Rights International have recently issued a statement on what we were looking for. We're looking to recommend to the Commission of the Status of Women to develop a protocol on the rights of widows that could draw on the protocol of the African Charter. The protocol should encourage community leaders and civil society groups to engage with governments to improve the situation of widows, to include penalties for inhumane, degrading and life-threatening mourning rights, which are tantamount to torture if we were looking at it from a male perspective. But men don't suffer the same problems as widowers don't suffer the same problems as widows. And we must safeguard the families and dependents of widows, because in many communities the children are taken away from them. They no longer belong to the family. In South Pacific, for example, in Papua New Guinea, a former High Commissioner of Papua New Guinea, who was here in London, described only 2 years ago that her children had been taken away from her, and she was not able to see her children when her husband died. Even though she was an ambassador, she had an ambassador's right, and she didn't have the official guardianship of her children, and therefore they could not come to live with her in the UK. I mean, it's those type of examples that are terrible. We also recommend that there should be, every time you submit statistical reports, you should have a report on widows, on how many widows there are in your country, or what the situation of widows is. And that the issue, the violence against widows, it should stop immediately. It is a terrible situation. I'm not a widow myself, but I have talked to many of the widows we've dealt with in various countries in the world, and I'm passionate enough to try and get this changed, and we all should talk together and try and do something really constructive to change attitudes. And I think that's all I've got to say, except that, you know, we have a duty to, I'm not saying that culture isn't a good thing, but it must be rooted in a life based on human rights, democracy and equality for all, which is our right for all of us. Thank you.
I think you'll agree with me that that's a very good note to end today's session on. I'm sure you will join me in